place you do not know.
Time for us to start. So, yeah, a brief introduction. So what we're going to do today is obviously the Around Gaza Strip envelope part 2. And we have part 2 because we simply didn't have enough time 2 weeks ago. So now we are going back to the same area, but we will see obviously places which we did not see yet, and we will visit a few places which we did visit, but we will look at them from a different angle, from a different perspective. And on top of that, we also have guest speakers. One of them should be with us already. Okay, let me see. I'm getting things that complicated here. We have too much. Okay, Adi. All right, so Adi is with us, and Adi will be our first speaker. You will see her in a minute, or maybe you see her already. Steve, I would like you to make her a co-host.
And I'm going to do that.
Oh, you'll, okay, thanks, Ilana. So Adi.
No. Unmute yourself, Julia. You've been muted.
Sorry, yeah, okay. So Adi, she will be our first speaker, and she has a very nice and quite delicious presentation for us. And then we will go to visit some places, and we will see some art and some other things. And then in the end of the presentation, we will have our second guest, whose name is Uri. And he has another beautiful and delicious presentation for us. Okay, so we start with food, we end with food, and let's get started. So just before just before I mute myself and she will start talking, I would like to remind you that this is a pay-as-you-wish presentation, and here we are. So, so just a reminder, this is the same slide you saw before. We will be touring this red area, which is immediately next to the Gaza Strip, which is the grayish area next to the Mediterranean Sea. And whatever you're going to see, which is marked with these blue stars, everything is within 15 seconds from the red alert. What red alert is, you already know, so we're not going back to it. And please welcome Adi. She will be taking us to the road, even though she doesn't really live there. But that's up to Adi. So I stop sharing now. And Adi, you're welcome to share your screen. Adi.
And on mute.
כן. עדי, את מוזמנת לעשות share screen, וכמובן לעשות unmute.
בשמחה. רגע אחד.
Okay, she's about to. All right. Can you see Adi now? Full screen?
But do you see my screen? Not yet.
No, not yet.
רגע. Sorry. I can't share my screen. And I would love that. Oh, now I can. Great. Thank you. Yay. Great. Can you see the screen?
כן, אבל בואי תעשי את זה בהצגת שקופיות.
We're good.
Tov, hi, good evening. Oh. Is it evening now in your place, in the States? No.
Depends where we are.
Afternoon.
So, nice to meet you. I am welcoming you to the culinary tour in Sderot, and I am very glad you chose me to join me to this short culinary tour. So nice to meet you. My name is Adi Rosen, and I live in Netiv HaAsara, which is really, really close to the Gaza border. I want to tell you why did I create the culinary tour in Sderot? Well, just before I'll tell you that I'm happily married and I'm a mother of 3 small, sweet children. And I want to return a little bit to the end of 2018. And during this year in our area, about almost 2,000 rockets were fired into this area in the Gaza area. And my friends and family, a lot of them asked me, why don't you leave to the center of Israel? Why do you still want to live here? What are you doing? How do you take care of your children there? And it's very judging and it's very hard to hear these kind of stuff. And I'm not telling you that it wasn't rough. It was really rough. But the reason that we live here is because it's good here, truly, at least most of the time. And I realized that I want to show how good it is here, despite the security complicity that we feel. So I decided I want to make people understand the complicity and still make them fall in love like we did in this area. So what's the best way to fall in love? Well, through food. I love eating. And I want to show you a couple of places in Sderot that we visit through the culinary tour. When people come here, it's 2.5 hours of traveling and hearing the stories and meeting people and eating a lot of food. And let's get a taste. But just before we start, just think a little bit. What comes in your mind when you think about Sderot? Most of the people on the trip say missiles, and yeah, I know, but there's a lot more than that. So one more thing before we begin, I want to ask you to raise your hand, and I'm looking, okay? I'm looking in the view. Can you please raise your right hand so we can get started? Steve, I like that thank you very much. So now that your hand is raised, we can actually start. It's a song from Sderot. Actually, there are a lot of people, famous people in Israel that came from Sderot, a lot of artists. So now we can begin. This restaurant that I'm gonna show you, all the big people, the big shots in Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, our prime minister, and a lot of singers come every time when they go to the south, they come to this restaurant. So meet hummus of tchina, hummus shel tchina, we call it in Israel. And this little hummus became a really big empire in Israel. First of all, it's because of the taste, which is amazing. But you feel their warmth, and you've come to like a little family, and it's amazing. And I want to tell you that I make, through the corona, a lot of trips, culinary tips. So how can it be? Well, honestly, the thing is, because it's outside and people of most of the time are with masks, so it's possible. I'm really waiting because in a week I believe that I'm gonna go again to the culinary tours. But you can see that we change it because of this time. If in the past we had plates, so now it's plastic plates for each one, and then it's easier to do it, and it just works. Thanks God. The other place that I'm taking, it's called Banuni, and the chef is the chef of Madonna. So I guess you're asking yourself, what is the chef of Madonna doing in Israel and in Sderot? Well, the chef of Madonna, he was her special chef for 3 years. But then the reason that he came back is because Ela Bekassis, that was his neighbor and the family's neighbor, was killed in 2005 by a rocket. And his parents took it really, really hard. So he decided to leave all his famous and amazing life just to help his parents. And in Sderot, he actually became the business mentor of a lot of restaurants in Sderot. Believe it or not, but this small city was very, very lively until the corona. And there are a lot of pubs there, and even drag queen parties. So it looks small, but it's very, very naughty. I want to show you another place that I love to go there. Just before I'll say that the Sderot pub has 80 cultural events every year. And the place that I want to show you, another place, is called Pizza Artichoke. And they make pizza with hearts because it's from all of the heart. And it is one of the 14 best pizzas in Israel outside of Tel Aviv. But other places say that it's one of the 11 best pizzas in Israel and not out of Tel Aviv. Very, very tasty. Another place that I love to take is to a person that tells about his life and how he grew in Sderot. And he makes really, really special nuts. And you have there all kinds of taste of Oreos, of berries, lotus, lots of surprises. And I'm waiting to go there again, I hope soon. So there are a lot of other amazing places. And I saved more surprises. If you ever come to Israel, you are more than welcome to visit me. And I'd love to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi. Actually, well, I wish actually among the stuff we saw, the pizza was my best favorite. So I'm sure next time I go to Sderot, I will stop by to have a pizza with the shape of a heart. This is amazing. Lovely. So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, so you're welcome to address them to Adi. Any questions about pizza, artichoke, hummus, trina, Sderot, or anything of the kind? Just make sure that we have nothing on chat. Oh,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Hello?
sure. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, if we visit Sderot, how far is Sderot from Beersheba?
It's 25 minutes. It's not that far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about 25 minutes from Beersheba. It's about an hour drive from Jerusalem. It's an hour 15 minutes from Tel Aviv. You know, we're a small country. The closest city is Gaza yet, but this is nothing you're going to visit soon. So, all right. Now we have a question. Do the nuts have flavorings added to them?
Yes, they do.
They do, of course.
Flavors,
Yeah.
lots of love.
Okay. The name of the first restaurant you mentioned was the Hummus of Trina. That's the name. Hummus shel Trina.
Yes.
So and it is great. This is one of the best hummuses in Israel. One of the most famous. It's really highly recommended. So whenever you come to volunteer and we drive to the area of Sderot, so we will have lunch there. Sure. Hummus shel Trina. Ilana, exactly as you spelled it. Thank you. Tov. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. No further questions. Adi, toda raba. Laila tov. Thank you so much, and hope to see you soon in reality. Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a great time in tour. Bye bye. Nice to meet you.
ביי, תודה רבה. רק
you.
תפסיקי
Thank
שיתוף מסך. תודה. Okay, so that was the start. Okay, I hope you were not too hungry, but rather happy. Okay, so I will go back to sharing my screen. Can you see it? Can you see my screen, ladies and gentlemen? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So in such a case, let us move forward. So we're leaving Sderot and we start driving. I think you saw these photos before. These are the same little structures by a bus stop, and you could see that the JNF donated the structure and the beautiful painting on it. And we keep driving, and we drive to Yad Mordechai. Now we've already been to Yad Mordechai. We already talked about the Egyptian attack during the Independence War, and now I would like us to look at something else. Okay, just a small reminder. Here we are. Remember Noam, just next to the statue of Mordechai Anilevich. We are located at the very center of Yad Mordechai. And this statue is dedicated to Mordechai Anilevich, who was the commander of the Warsaw Ghetto revolt during the Holocaust. He was killed by the Nazis in 1943. He never made it to the kibbutz, and kibbutz is named after him. So this is something you already saw 2 weeks ago, but now this structure on the right-hand side of the slide, we did not look at it just because we had no time, but let's just take a look at it. And if you read Hebrew, you can see that it says Museum Yad Mordechai, the Museum of Yad Mordechai. And this is the museum which is dedicated to the Warsaw Ghetto Revolt. This is the museum which is dedicated to the Holocaust and the victims of the Holocaust. So this kibbutz literally lives around these two memorials, around these two events, which which still influences the daily life of the kibbutz. Just imagine that you live in a little farming, nice community, which is within 15 seconds of the red alert, and you have Mordechai Anilevich, the victim of the Holocaust, right on top of you, and you have the Museum of the Holocaust right on top of you. And well, definitely it is no easy. And well, this is a friend of mine, and her name is Efrat Galnur, as you can see. She's a well-known Israeli artist, an Israeli painter, and she's also a hiker. So this photo was taken during our last hike in the Eilat Mount during Hanukkah. And back in 2016, she was invited to Yad Mordechai to make a series of paintings, a series of works about the people who live in this very successful, very prosperous, and very happy farming community. But in the same time, they literally live within this shadow of the Holocaust and the Independence War, when the kibbutz was totally ruined, was abandoned for almost 6 months, when children were evacuated at night and then they came back. So we may say, remember, actually 2 days ago, we were talking about the combat, and we were talking about the trauma, the post-trauma syndrome. So Efrat came to the kibbutz. She actually spent about 2 months total there, I think. And she was talking to the people living in the kibbutz. She was interviewing people in the kibbutz, and she found out that the entire kibbutz community suffers from a non-treated post-traumatic syndrome. So what she eventually did, she interviewed about a dozen of people of different ages, and she asked everybody to choose a place which is his favorite. The results were the paintings. I will show you just a few paintings, but well, I hope you will love the paintings. I think she's an amazing artist. And the idea here, you see, they're very, very detailed, very accurate. They're very, it's almost a photo. This is the actual house of a kibbutznik. His name is Dodi. But it is also surreal. And what she asked everybody to do is to choose his favorite or her favorite place within the kibbutz, and to tell her why is this the best place for them. And you will see that most of the people chose something which is connected to the tragedy, either this one or the other one. And those who chose their own houses, they felt a bit guilty. So, for instance, this is the house of Dodi, and Dodi, he said, well, this is my favorite. You know, I live here. This is my home. But I specifically love this point of view. And that's because when I'm standing here where Efrat was standing when she painted it, that was another part of my garden which was ruined because we needed to build a bomb shelter there. So, you know, this is an entire community living the war, either the Second World War or the independence or present day. So Linda chose the social club, which is this one, which is right next to this right-hand side part, which is the Holocaust Museum. And you see in between there is an open space. So she said, well, this is my favorite spot in the kibbutz because this is where I got married. This is where my marriage celebration took place. Now, I can't even imagine celebrating marriage next to a Holocaust museum, but for her, it was totally natural because this is the social club and because this is the open area. And yes, and the entire kibbutz lives within this legacy of the Holocaust. So Gabi chose this view, and this is where the battlefield is located. The painting doesn't actually show the battlefield, but it does show this. It looks like a paved road, but this is actually a trench which used to connect the fortified spots, the bunkers, just above the battlefield. And this is the favorite of Mordechai. And this is the wild sycamore which grew on top of the dunes, which used to be the Arab village, which did make it after 1948. So the exhibition took place within the kibbutz. They have an art gallery. And then when the exhibition was over, the paintings were given as presents to the people who shared their stories. So this is something, you know, I really wanted to share it with you because it is, well, it is a very human and humanitarian, I would say, case. And at the same time, you know, all these people who obviously suffer from post-trauma, they chose to stay and live in the kibbutz, and they have children and grandchildren, and this is the best place for them. So from Yad Mordechai, we drive directly to a place which is very well known in Israel. It's called the Sycamore Farm, Chavat Shikmim. And unfortunately, where there's nothing we can visit there, it is not open to visitors. But this is the private farm which belonged to Ariel Sharon and his wife, Lily Sharon. And when Lily passed away, she was buried on a little hill, which is within the farm. And then Ariel Sharon chose this place to be his graveyard as well. Right next to the Gaza Strip. As you remember, Ariel Sharon was the prime minister. He was the one who decided upon the disengagement plan. And actually the reason for us to be next to but not inside is because of him. And we still have this ongoing debate, ongoing disagreement within the Israeli society, whether it was a positive act, negative act, is it good or bad, and we still don't agree upon that. So that's the Sycamore Farm, which is now belongs to his children, and once upon a time they visit, but it doesn't really have any governmental significance in our lives. Even though during the reign of Ariel Sharon, he used to visit the farm every weekend, every second weekend, and probably the most important decisions were taken inside the farm in this particular house you see in front of you. So, you know, the lives of the Israeli citizens and the political acts were decided on here. So next stop for us will be the first location of a kibbutz, which is called Be'erot Yitzchak. So today, if you look at the map of Israel, you will see that Be'erot Yitzchak is nowhere near Gaza Strip, which is true, because present-day location is not far from the airport. It's like a 7 minutes drive from Ben Gurion Airport, right in the center of the country. But in the very beginning, the group of young and, as you can see, Orthodox Jews, religious, Orthodox, observant Jews, they settled in Be'erot Yitzchak. They first gathered from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and other Eastern European countries in another little town called Pardes Chana, which is 7 minutes drive from where I live. And then after a while, they got the land from the Jewish agency to settle in the northwest Negev next to the Gaza Strip. So this is where they moved back in 1943. And these photos here, the Orthodox gentleman on the left, these young kids in the fields, and the water tower. The water tower is similar to the one we saw in Yad Mordechai. If you remember, I told you that this the water towers became literally the symbols of the Jewish communities, the very young, small Zionistic Jewish communities in northwest of the Negev Desert. So Be'erot Yitzchak, which was named after a rabbi whose name was Yitzchak Nissenboim, who was killed by the Nazis same year as Mordechai Nilevich back in 1943. They moved into here and they made it into a prosperous, small, observant Jewish community. In this community of Be'erot Yitzchak was the base from which another group of young and devoted Jews left in order to establish new kibbutzim in the very end of 1947, the operation which is known as the 11 settlements, 11 spots, when within one night after Yom Kippur, when the British had no idea that something is about to happen, 11 Jewish spots, communities were established as a surprise. So Be'erot Yitzchak was one of these bases from which these young people left in order to build more. And this community, which is within about 7 seconds of the red alert, was among the first one. Actually, this community of Be'erot Yitzchak and Yad Mordechai became the first communities which were attacked by the Egyptian forces May 15th, 1948, the day of the declaration of the independence. Heavy bombing, missiles from the ground and from aircraft. The community was damaged. And then you see when the fighters were within the trenches, the water tower was damaged by a missile, and then the water went all the way down there and flooded the trenches. And then the radio went out of order. They had 17 killed, but they gave the Egyptians a very good fight. So about 200 Egyptian soldiers were killed in the same battle. And the next day, the Egyptians just decided to let go. You know, they were on their way to Tel Aviv, and they had other communities on the way. And they probably thought, like, well, we have maybe 3 dozens of Jews, and they're fighting it. Forget it. You know, we will be back to them. So, so they were actually let to stay there, and they were not taken as prisoners of war. But when the war was over, they could not resist, you know, staying there. Be'erot Yitzchak and Be'eri and Nirim and Gesher and quite a few other Jewish communities who fought during the independence war, and they made it, and they survived, and they could restore their community and stay there. In the end of the war, they felt that they can't make it, and the decision was made by the community that it is better to restore the community rather than restoring the houses. So when the war was over, they decided that they're going to leave. So they left, and the same community, same people, same name was reestablished in the present day location, which is next to the airport. And same happened to the community of Kibbutz Be'eri. They made it, but they moved aside. But Kibbutz Be'eri was reestablished just about 1 kilometer from the original location. And well, some of you, I guess, have been to Gesher, Kibbutz Gesher, Naharaim. Yes, see if you remember this place. If you've been there, just you might remember there is a special presentation which tells you the story of the one and only hydroelectrical power plant, which used to be right next to it, which did not survive the independence war. So anyhow, that kibbutz, again, it could stay there, but they felt that they cannot do it. And so we have a place called Old Gesher, which is a tourist attraction, and we have Kibbutz Gesher, which literally moved across the road. And Yad Mordechai, as we saw, they decided to come back and restore their community. And you know, this is a interesting psychological question. Is it actually better to live in that place where you fought so hard for, but you have the trauma, or it's better to live somewhere else and just start it from scratch? So I don't know if there is any answer to it, but we may say that the present day community of Be'erot Yitzhak is mentally healthier probably than the community of Yad Mordechai. So all we have now in Be'erot Yitzhak, the original location of Be'erot Yitzhak, is this half-ruined water tower, the photos here, and this nice tree. You have a little paved side way to get to it, a little picnic table, and again, overlooking the Gaza Strip straight forward. The sidewalk, well, it is made so people with baby stroller or wheelchair could access the picnic table, but it is also to remind us of the war, because it is exactly the same location where the trench, one of the trenches, used to be. So it is a beautiful memorial. And
Julia?
Yes.
Is Yad Mordechai the location of where, I forget the man's name, he was a young man, and he was killed by Fedayeen before the 56 war, and it was known all over the country. And he was one of the reasons given why the 56 war started. Do you know who that was?
No, I don't know. No.
I thought he was Yad Mordechai.
No, maybe he was. No, sorry.
Okay.
I can Google it, but you can Google it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So just before we move forward, you see, this is what Be'erot Yitzhak, present day Be'erot Yitzhak in present day location looks like. This is inside a kibbutz, and this is I think this is the dining room. I'm not sure what I was taking photos of, but that's it, and they're happy now. So as we keep driving, we see quite a few structures of same kind as we saw before, and as you probably, well, what are these? These are the bomb shelters, of course. And just a few years ago, these bomb shelters were ugly, gray color. And the moment you look at them, you felt scared. And then I don't know who was the genius who had this idea, but all of them, all along the road, next to each and every bus stop, they were beautifully painted by different painters, by local artists. It was financed by JNF. It was also financed by a Christian organization called CUFI, C-U-F-I, Christians United for Israel. And all of a sudden, you know, I remember myself driving down these roads and you look at these little bomb shelters and you feel so bad, you know, and then all of a sudden we drive down the road and we see artwork. So it really makes a difference. And well, we made a photo album of these bomb shelters on the way, and there's so much more of these. So it's so weird how simple sometimes it's to make a great change for the locals. So if you donate it to JNF or Kofi, so thank you. And now we continue to an Anzac memorial. That's what it looks like. It is located within 1 kilometer, exactly 1 kilometer from the Gaza Strip. And that memorial is supposed to resemble the letter A, okay, here. I hope you can see the A, and you can make it upstairs and stand at this little veranda, let's call it. Okay, you can see it on both sides. ANZAC stands for Australian and New Zealand Armored Corps. Okay, and we still have the ANZAC cookies recipe. So if you want to have a very special cookie, which is exactly as it was made during World War I for the soldiers of Australia and New Zealand. So here it is. And these were the armored corps, and they all used horses, of course. So a few thousands of horses were brought all the way from Australia and New Zealand, along with the soldiers. And well, they spent a few years of the First World War here. Hundreds of them were killed. We have a few beautifully maintained British graveyards for Anzac fighters and other British fighters of World War I. Of course, not World War II, because fortunately, Second World War never made it to here. But we have a few beautiful graveyards, classic British, very well maintained. So the war was over, and eventually the soldiers were evacuated back, of course. And then the question was, what should we do with the horses? Now, you know, I never thought of it, but if I would think of it, so I would say, well, if you evacuate the soldier, you should evacuate the horse as well. But the commanders decided otherwise. It was just too complicated and pricey for them to evacuate the horse. And they were supposed to be just released here, or maybe sold here, or, you know, whatever, just to get rid of them, because you don't want to carry them back. And the soldiers who spent years of war next to the horse, on top of the horse, they felt, and this is something I read quite a few descriptions of this horrible feeling of the soldier, that he cannot, well, if he has to part from the horse, he will, because he has no choice. But he cannot just leave the horse behind, because he realizes that nobody ever will take good enough care of his horse. And so the decision of these soldiers was to shoot the horse. And I decided not to share these photos with you because they're just horrible. But we have photos of literally piles of dead horses. Yes, Ilana, exactly. And this is why we don't have this photo. And you know, I read memorials of some of these soldiers who said the most difficult experience of the entire war was pulling the trigger. And I don't know, you know, it will never happen again because we don't use horses any longer, but I hope that people realize that this was a wrong way to behave. The location of the memorial is there because one of the most difficult and one of the most significant fights of the Anzac division was over Gaza. There were a few attempts to conquer Gaza, and eventually they made it. And the battlefield was exactly where we are now at the Anzac Memorial. So now we are standing on this little porch overlooking Gaza, and that's what we see around us. You can hear the wind, and you can see the eucalyptuses. The eucalyptuses were planted here after the war as part of the memorial, because eucalyptuses are Australian trees, and yeah, I think that was a good idea to surround Anzac Memorial by the Australian trees. And the houses you see in front of you, and the houses Noam sees in front of him, belong to Gaza and other Palestinian towns. And here you can see birds. If you did not see them well enough, so once again, okay, we see so many birds. Okay, just in this one area. These birds are more or less above the security barrier, the fence between us and Gaza Strip. So I was asking myself, why do we have so many birds right here and nowhere else? And the answer is because this bird are circling right above a huge pile of garbage. Okay, it's just enormous. And obviously, if you are a bird, so this is a wonderful lunch for you. By the way, somebody wrote before on chat that it is about, I'm not sure what, about 12, about noon in where you are. So this is lunchtime. Okay, so imagine these birds are having lunch. So anyhow, we were looking, Noam and myself, we were looking at this huge pile of garbage, and we were like, oh my God, this is horrible, huh? And then Noam asked me, hey, whose garbage is this? And what is a horrible way to place your garbage? And I said, well, you're right, but the Palestinians, they have other troubles as well. And he was like, do you mean that this is in Gaza Strip? And I said, well, yes, of course. And it was like, if you walk there, it will take you just a few minutes. So we live very, very close. And of course, the garbage has an impact on Israel, and the birds have impact on Israel. And the pollution, which is made by the garbage, the pollution which penetrates in the aquifer water by rain, obviously they pollute, this pollution pollutes the drinking water of Israel as well. And this is one, just to mention one problem, except of the missiles, which is associated with the political situation between us and Gaza, because nobody does anything about it. So from here, we keep driving. We leave the eucalyptus trees behind us. And what you see here is the most typical landscape of the northwest Negev. Now, when Be'erot Yitzchak and Yad Mordechai and other communities in the area moved to this area, it was a bare land. It was empty with some sand dunes and sycamore trees on them. And the grain part of Israel used to be in the Sarona Valley around Tel Aviv. Remember the Jaffa oranges? So most of the food would come from the coastal plain and up north. But today, as the country grows bigger in terms of population, the land in the center of Israel just became too expensive. And so little by little, but agriculture is pushed down south. And we discovered that the soil is actually quite fertile. All you need is irrigation. And if you supply irrigation, either purified sewage water or aquifer water, you will have the most amazing agriculture. And today, most of the fruits and vegetables in Israel, they grow in the surroundings of the Gaza Strip. And by the way, that has to do with second guest we will have soon. So anyhow, we drive around these wheat fields and barley fields and what else? I don't see the other photo. I want you to see maybe later. Okay. So anyhow, we keep driving and we see the anemones. And this is the slide I showed you last time. This was the best areas to see the Dome, the red south, which is right now. That's what it looks like. It's near a village called Shokeda. And just a few more photos of these rolling hills and the anemones and eucalyptuses. These photos were taken just a few days ago. So yeah, I really love this landscape. So just a few more photos to share with you. Isn't it beautiful? Okay, the anemones, the grass, eucalyptuses and tamarisks, and it is so peaceful and quiet, and it's impossible to imagine that sometimes it is so different. So we drive among the anemones and we make it to this place, which is actually the sulfur mines. Once upon a time, shortly before World War I, a gentleman whose name is Leonard Williams, who was a geologist, but he was also a spy for the British intelligence. He made it here, okay, again, next to Gaza Strip, and he was supposed to look for sulfur, okay? He was a geologist. Actually, he was looking for sulfur, but in the same time, he was looking for the best location to attack the Ottoman bases. Okay, but that's like aside information. So as he was touring around, he smelled the sulfur. He made a few, samples, and he decided that, hey, yeah, this is a good place to keep in mind. Let's wait until the war is over and see what's going on. So the war eventually was over. And a few years after the war, after World War I, of course, he came back and he decided to start mining the sulfur. So in the beginning, his estimation was that there are some 1 million tons of sulfur. And this is a lot of sulfur. And the sulfur is located not very deep. You see this in the right upper corner. This is what the sulfur mine looks like. So this is not deep at all. This is a maximum of 30 feet, which is very convenient. So anyhow, they started with the estimation of 1 million tons, but then the estimation was lowered to about 300,000 tons, and then it was lowered to about 100,000 tons, and eventually they decided that it's not worth the effort. On top of that, originally sulfur was used for agriculture, and sulfur was also used to produce gunfire. After a while, the TNT replaced the sulfur, and so you don't need that much sulfur, and forget it. So what you see in front of you is the mostly ruined structure which used to be part of the sulfur factory. But the sulfur mines are still here, and the spot is just beautiful. And so here you can see a little van which belongs to a nearby kibbutz, and there were some teenagers sitting down the tree and enjoying some history, but I'm not sure they ever heard of the sulfur. So just to finish the story, when the sulfur mines were abandoned, okay, that was towards the end of the British mandate. Later they were renewed by the Israeli government, and then they were finally abandoned. But the engineer, this is the Williams, when the sulfur mines were shut down, he moved to Eilat. Okay, Eilat is a great spot, and he built a little house for himself, and that's the house. Today, it is a nice and fancy bed and breakfast. But for many years, this structure was left alone and abandoned at the very southern edge of Eilat, just a few kilometers from Egyptian border. It was called the Shack of Williams. And at some point, Williams just walked away, locked the door, and disappeared. Okay, we don't know where he go, what happened to him, but this structure was abandoned for decades, and finally somebody took care of it. And again, today you can stay there for a lot of money. By the way, it is considered to be the southmost house in Israel, just next to the border. So this is the very end of the story of William. Right next to this abandoned sulfur mine, you can see this huge V. Okay, that's on the paved road, and it says RAF, which is the Royal Air Force, made up by the British pilots. We keep driving. South, a bit southeast, and we see these piles of soil in front of us. Okay, I don't know what does these look to you. You're welcome to take a good look at it. They're just what you see. Okay, there are like dozens of those piles of soil. Nothing behind them, nothing in front of them. They look like nothing at all. So when I looked at them for the first time, I was like, what are these? And then I had an idea. So probably that's it. Okay, probably this is a gigantic mole, probably a relative of Godzilla who made it to this Gaza Strip envelope and just made this little, hills for itself. So I was very happy with this theory, but after a while I thought that maybe this is not the right answer. So I started asking people, and eventually what I was told is that this is part of the military preparations of the British for the arrival of the Nazis. So, during World War II, the British were very much afraid of the Nazi army of Rommel making it all the way from Egypt to the land of Israel. And so these were made as a preparation to store the military equipment and mostly the explosives. So it's not about move, it's about military again. We keep driving, we reach Tel Game, which is this little archaeological site, which is very interesting from an archaeological point of view. But on top of that, inside there, they found the one and the only yet known burial of a donkey. Okay, that donkey was buried properly, beautifully, almost 4,000 years ago. Why? We don't know. And we keep driving, a few more beautiful landscape, jojoba plantations on the way. We make it to here, okay? A beautiful mosaic floor, which is very typical Byzantine mosaic, but it is very typical to churches. But in this case, we're not talking about a church. We are talking about a synagogue, and we know that for sure because we have that inscription in Hebrew, and we have a beautiful menorah. Okay? We are in a synagogue which existed here some 15 centuries ago, and a very, very similar mosaic was found by the Anzac forces in Eshkol Park, which is a few kilometers away, and it was taken with them as a trophy, and it is now placed in this beautiful building, which is a Australian War memorial in Canberra. And now, please welcome Uri. I hope Uri is with us. Uri, אתה כאן? Uri, I'm looking for Uri. He is supposed to be here. Uri, אתה כאן? This is so weird. Let me call him just a second because he's our next guest. אורי, הנה אתה פה, אני כמעט התקשרתי אליך. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome Uri. And Ilana, would you please make him a co-host so he can share his screen?
Steve, can you do that? I actually can't do it.
Oh, you cannot? I'm sorry. I thought you can. What happened?
Steve, the host, can.
But aren't you a co-host so you could be no? Okay, I see. Okay, so Steve, would you please make Uri a co-host so he can share his screen and presentation? Uri, I'm sorry that I'm a bit late. Somehow I didn't feel that the time is passing, so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I just can't seem to find
It's
him.
under the word home, Steve. It's not under his name. Just
Okay, what's it under?
Home. Capital
Home?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
Stand by. Capital H. I have Harry. I'm sorry. You sure about that?
Yeah, sorry.
My name, you look for my name,
It's okay.
how I called.
Steve, all you have to do
Yes.
is type in the word home under participants. There's a search bar. If you type in,
Got it.
אורי, נכון, אתה home, אוקיי.
Okay.
he should be the only one who comes up. See that?
Home.
Yep. Okay.
I'm
Here we go.
home.
Here we go. Here we go. Stand by. You are now co-host. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hello. Good evening. My name is Uri Alon, and I'm now in the Salad Trail. Salad Trail is a farm in the west point or the southwest of the Western Negev. And we invite people to come to see the high tech of the agriculture in the desert. Me, my personal, I'm an agronomist, specialist in disease of plant, and also tour guide and captain of a military boat for 20 years in the Israeli Navy. So I arrived to this farm in Moshav Talmei Yosef in the year 1988 with my family. And we take the desert, and this area is desert. It's meaning that we have less than 200 millimeters of rain, that it's not enough to grow wheat. So we arrive here, get from the government a land, we get 15 acre, and that's all. Sand and nothing more. And from this, we done a very special thing, and I try to show you some of the things that I have here in my farm. I hope you see it now. Yes,
We're good.
Yes, okay. I try to share. I have a technical problem, but in a minute I show you. For example, we can grow in the desert 4 color of carrot. You see the picture? You see? Okay.
כן, כן, אנחנו רואים.
בסדר. So you see behind this lovely girl, the sand, how it's look before and when we arrive. And with the Israeli knowledge, we take this land, this sand, and grow unique herbs and vegetables and fruit that I show you in a few pictures what we can grow in the desert. For example, what you see here is 4 color of carrot. The visitor that come to visit us pick by themselves carrot from the desert sand, and they can see that the color is unique, the taste is wonderful, and I show you more thing here. For example, children picking directly from the soil the carrot. This is a greenhouse of herbs, and my dog in the middle also. We grow herbs, and we have here about 60 different variety of herbs that we can grow in the soil, in the natural soil, without we don't add anything to the soil. We use biological control in the greenhouse. And now we are in cherry tomato greenhouse, and we can grow the best cherry tomato trust me, you ever try. And after you try, and in this example, it's a greenhouse of a yellow and red cherry tomato. you can feel the flavor that we take from the ground, and the water we use here is sewage water. We take the sewage water from Tel Aviv, and instead to throw what we have done a few years ago, we throw the water to the sea and make the sea, the beach of Tel Aviv, very smell very bad. So instead of it, we clean the water and irrigate the field in the desert. This is the Israeli brain, to take sewage and to make it to the best cherry tomato you ever try. So another unique thing that we have here, I want to show you. We can grow even in, who know what is this? I ask you a question. Who can send me a message and tell me what you see here? Any guess?
Banana
Typical to the
flower.
desert.
It's
What?
a banana flower.
Banana flower, you're right, but we are in the desert. And even in the desert, we can grow banana, and even it's a tropical plant. So we also can grow it here. Here is some of the vegetables that we can grow here, the cherry tomato, the cucumber, and we grow also strawberry. We can grow also strawberry in this region. Here I don't have a picture of it.
Did you grow flowers too?
Yes, we can grow flowers, and I used to grow before a few years ago, grow flowers and export it to the market in Holland. The Israeli winter is like Europe summer, so we can use the heat of the winter. Even today it was about 20 Celsius degrees, about 70 Fahrenheit, I believe, something like this. And we can grow in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the desert, flower, cutting flower, and send it to Europe. So we
I was
can
there
grow.
I was there in 1988 with Menachem Perlmutter when we were exporting tulips to Holland.
Yes, yes. In this time, we don't export tulip, we export other flowers, but we can grow tulip. The Dutch grow it much better than us.
Uri, if you
Yeah.
don't show a slide or something, just stop sharing, because we see
Okay. Okay, because
your screen, but we don't see that much.
okay,
Better to see you. Okay, great.
okay. So if you have any question about how to grow in a desert and to get the best taste of it, this is your time to ask.
Okay, I would also like to add that Uri has the best cherry tomatoes, and he also has the best suspended strawberries. I mean, do you have a slide of the strawberries which are up in the air and you can pick them up easily?
Yes, in 1 second. It's
Okay.
taking.
It's an amazing experience. You know, instead of crawling down there to get the strawberries, you simply walk normally, and then you have the hanging strawberries on both sides, and all you need to do is to pick them up and put them in your mouth, and the taste of the strawberry, which is like 10 seconds old, is the best ever. And well, I wish we could taste it now, but we can't. Okay.
Can
In
I
the
ask a
meanwhile,
question?
yeah.
What fertilizer do you use?
Again, what fertilizer? We use combined fertilizer. Even we grow in the, you need to understand that when we grow in the desert, there is no any nutrient in the soil. So we need to add everything to the soil. We have computer that check how many nutrients we have in the soil, and through the irrigation system with computer, all my farm is computerized. We add what the plant need, and it's a change from plant to another. So usually we go give everything to the plant, the NPK and also micro element, and everything that the plant need get from us, not from the soil.
I was told that the best cherry tomatoes comes when you use salty water, saline. Is that true?
If you compare a variety, the same variety, and you grow it in two areas, in salty area, it will be more good. But instead of it, we find other variety that fit to other area, because when you grow in salty water, the fruit became to be very small, and because it's hard to grow in this condition. So we use other variety that fit also to other area.
Thank you.
There is a question here. Do you use greenhouses to start your crops, and what kind?
We use our greenhouse is to fit the weather to the plant, not the plant to the weather to the plant. So in the middle of the winter, we have in Israel only 3 months with rain that is tough for the plant to grow. So we cover the greenhouse with plastic sheet. But during the other months, we need to take out the heat from the greenhouse, but to take care from insect. So we cover the greenhouse only with net and protect them from wind and from disease and insect. So it changes from season to season.
Another question, what makes the tomatoes and strawberries taste so great?
When you grow with love, you always succeed. So it's right, everything you do. And we do it with a lot of passion.
Okay.
Are you in a position to export bananas? And are these the same sort of variety of banana that we're used to in America?
I don't know, in America, it's common in Israel, the regular yellow banana.
Yeah.
We don't export them, but in the last few years, most of the banana crop moved to the desert, to our area. A few years ago, all the banana grow next to the Israeli shore in Mount Carmel and next to the Kinneret. But in the last few years, we moved them to the desert because we have a lot of water, the water that came from the sewage water, and we have a lot of land, good land.
Well, we still have plenty of bananas in the coastal plain. I mean, where I live, we are, they're full of bananas just a bit north of us. I live near Hadera, so starting from Hadera all the way to Haifa, there's so many
Yes, but we move them to this region.
Yeah, well, we still have some.
Yeah.
So, any further questions to?
Yeah, do you use drip tape in your growing?
Again, I don't understand.
Was it drip irrigation, Barry? That's what you were asking about drip irrigation?
Yes, drip irrigation, net of fence.
Yes. We use drip irrigation, and we grow in few different medium of the few bedding for the crops. Some of the crop we grow in the soil. The other we grow, for example, the strawberry, we grow them in a special bag with a coconut husk. So we fit the soil to the plant also, and we use a drip irrigation that first developed in Israel.
We use all of your technology here in California. In 1988, we started bringing that. And every day we use irrigation systems that you developed in Israel to flourish here in California.
Yes, we practice it in this region. Every new dripper test first in our region, in our condition, and then Netafim company export it all over the world.
Literally all over the world. I saw them in Central Africa, like all over the place. They were so amazing. Okay, there is a okay, there is a question actually. Pamela asked me, but I would rather ask you, Uri. Can individuals come there, or do they have to be part of a group?
We do a tours, 2-hour guided tour. Even for family or for group, everyone can be in contact with us. It's called the Salad Trail, and they come all over the year. We have plenty of things to show all over the year, and even in the middle of the summer, it's not so hot because we cover the greenhouse and with shade, and it's very good for bar mitzvah tour or something. We have a special program with a cook contest like Master Chef we do also, and we have special lunch that we prepare from our product. It's called poiki. It's a special pot came from South Africa, and we cook with it to the group, all from our vegetable. So everyone, when he come to Israel, if he want to come to see the dream of Ben Gurion, how it came to be alive, this is the best place to see.
Okay, and probably the last question, does the Salad Trail use volunteer labor?
The work in the greenhouse is very hard. So in the middle of the summer, it's about 100 Fahrenheit, and we grow all over the year in very hard conditions, so volunteers not succeed to cross this weather, but sometimes they help us to guide the group and to treat the group. But we usually use Thai people to work, and we have Israeli guide to guide the group. In normal year, about 50,000 visitors arrive to us. This year, maybe 5,000.
Well, 5,000 is much better than nothing, and you know. Okay, toda rabah. Thank you so much, Uri, for taking the time and sharing and talking to us. And I'm looking forward to see you in reality and taste the greatest tomatoes and strawberries and free the pigeons. You didn't mention the pigeons.
Yes.
So, toda
rabah. Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Hope for the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
להתראות. ביי אורי, תודה רבה. טוב, so ladies and gentlemen, our Gaza envelope tour is over for the second time, okay? And even now we didn't visit all of it, but enough is enough. And next tour will be further south. I mean, we keep driving south. And next tour is, as I promised, part 2 of the best of the Negev Desert. So just for you to look forward to it even more, we will be visiting Makhtesh Ramon, the Ramon crater, which is the biggest and the most beautiful. I really hope, well, you know, it's nothing I can do about it, but we still experience a lockdown, which is now on for 5 weeks. And even though it's not like 100%, but the national parks and the nature reserves are still closed. So there are a few places we must visit on in the Negev Desert. So if I will not be able to do it physically, so maybe we will do it virtually. I mean, even I will make it virtual. We will see. But anyhow, we will be in Makhtesh Ramon and the surroundings, and we I hope I will be able to bring more speakers, or at least one speaker from an isolated farm, which I really love. Isolated farm is another, you know, interesting topic. Shvila Silat, the Salat Trail, is not an isolated farm because it is located within a moshav, within a community. But we have quite a few isolated farms in the Negev Desert. When people normally we're talking about a family which decided that, hey, what we want to do is simply to live in the middle of the desert and do agriculture and tourism combined. So this is a very normal way of life for Australia. It is quite normal for United States. I know it is totally abnormal for Israel, and so you have to be very special and very different. They're very like a weirdo, because we, generally speaking, Jews, and even more so Israeli Jews, we are very much community oriented. We tend to live in big flocks. And in order to live in an isolated farm, even though it's not that far isolated, but yet, it's just your family. So you are a total weirdo, okay, within the Israeli society. So hopefully we will have one of these weirdos joining us next week, okay? If it will not work, so you will see a pre-recorded interview, because you have to get familiar with these people. And there are quite a few other beautiful places around the Negev Desert, which we will be visiting for sure, with or without national parks getting reopened. So this is the tour for next week, okay, the heart of the Negev Desert. And the presentation next week will be about genetics with Professor Noam Shubron. So we will be talking about something, Steve, already you told me that you're interested in the topic. I mean, even if you were never interested in the topic, I'm sure positive that you will find it fascinating, because this is the very cutting edge of the modern medicine and genetic research. So we have a beautiful week together next week.
Julia, there are also some questions from your presentation.
Okay, so I missed it.
That's okay. The first one is mine, so I'm being selfish. The first one is my question. So
sure. What was it? Sorry, Lon, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. There's a few questions. I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss them just from your presentation. We can answer other people's first. It's okay. Harry wanted to know if those birds that were eating the trash were vultures.
Okay, well, I'm not a great bird watcher, but I don't think they were vultures. They didn't look like vultures, but more than that, vultures need cliffs to nest, and there are no cliffs around there. So I think they were more like storks kind of bird. I don't think these were birds of prey, but don't take my word for it. I don't know enough. Okay. Yeah, we need Professor Leshem.
Got it. Okay, and then the other question, it looks like there were only two, was mine. Just coming from a museum background, it looks like there are quite a few museums there. Do you know what they do in terms of artifact care, protection? Like all around the world, there's disaster preparedness plans in case there's a flood or something. But being in that area, are those museums, built in structures that can withhold?
Well, the one in Yad Mordechai, yes. Okay, the Holocaust Museum in Yad Mordechai is prepared for bombing. I'm not sure about other exhibits. Actually, I never thought of this question. This presentation, I'm less prepared than normal. I don't. Yeah, this is a good. It is a question. I don't know. I would say yes, but really know.
Other countries that are being attacked, whether it's Iran or whatever, that your cultural heritage and your objects coming from your cultural history are things that can't be replaced, and so there's a big they protect these things. So I was just curious how they had planned to protect them.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, the museum in Yad Mordechai is a bomb shelter. Because it is a museum, but also because they're trying to make as many large bomb shelters as possible. So, it's used for, but at the same time, they don't have that many actual artifacts. I mean, there's more display, like explaining things and photos, which are replicas. They don't have that many original artifacts. So they will not lose that much in terms of, there is no replacement for that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, now maybe it sounds like, we should not go there, but it is a relatively small but very well designed museum, and it is unlike the Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, which is huge and enormous and endless, and this one and the one Yad Vashem is the central Holocaust museum, so it is dedicated to everything which took place. Now Yad Mordechai is specifically dedicated to Warsaw Ghetto, so it is very limited. It's one event, and when you visit this museum, you actually you actually know and understand as much as it could be understood what happened during this particular event. So it is highly recommended. The Holocaust, which is called Mishu'alet Kuma, Mishu'alet Kuma means from Holocaust to revival, and it is a very strong feeling of you walk through this community. It's hard to describe how green and beautiful it is. I mean, you saw a few photos, but it doesn't really give you the feeling. So it is very, very peaceful and pretty and well maintained, and there's so many kids. It's a beautiful place. So you walk through this wonderful flourishing community. You walk into this museum, which is a bomb shelter, and it actually looks like a bomb shelter. And you walk into this museum, which is, you have that feeling of being underground. And again, it's because it is a bomb shelter, but also because they wanted you to feel, trapped in this. And eventually you make it into this exact replica of the bunker, which used to belong to Mordechai Anilevich. And you feel like so stressed, and it's horrible. And you walk out, and again, there is this beautiful grass lawn, and it's right next to the cow shed, and it's all together. It's a crazy combination, this kibbutz. It was very Efrat, the painter I showed it. She was totally immersed in this experience. I mean, I remember her driving to Kibbutz Yad Mordechai over and over again to talk to people and paint, and she was like, I can't stand it any longer. I mean, it's so good and it's so bad.
Thank you, Julia.
Anything else?
That was it.
Yeah, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Oh, by the way, I owe an answer to Ellen. Was it Ellen? Regarding how many, what is the percentage of the 18 years old who actually joined the military? I think that was Ellen's questions from the day before yesterday. I'm not sure he is with us.
Right.
Yeah, I had one question there.
Yeah, Barry, please.
I'm reading an article here about Mount Rushmore, the mountain of waste dumped during the first corona background by Ramallah municipality. 10,000 cubic meters of household and industrial waste. This has been going on now for months and months, and no progress has been made, and the dump is growing bigger and bigger. They're showing pictures of the dump all over the place. So it's really a problem, as you said.
Yeah, sure, of course. There's more than one of those. We have, sewage and pollutants from both Gaza Strip and the Palestinian Autonomy, which is located uphill. The Palestinian Autonomy, most of their major cities like Ramallah and Nablus, and they are located east from Israel, but also located uphill from Israel. And so when we have rainfall like now, so the rain washes the waste downhill towards us. And so I live right next to a riverbed called Alexander, which runs into one of the most beautiful beaches in Israel, Chof Beit Yanai. And anyhow, like every now and then, you can see the pollutants running into the sea coming from Nablus. And when we complain, we, not my community, like the government, the state of Israel, when we complain about it, they more or less answer, well, you took no care of this situation during the time you controlled the Palestinian territories, and you want us to take care of it now. Well, you will wait another, 30, 40, whatever years. And it is a complicated situation. I can see your cell phone. Yeah, untreated waste dumped by the Palestinians. Right. Yeah, but to be fair, we would need a Palestinian speaker here, somebody from the Palestinian government, and that's it is a bit complicated. Even though that could be done as well, maybe once upon a time.
Julia, I should point out that
we also have a lot of we have a lot of trash within Israel coming from Israel. It's not just the Palestinians. Steve, did you say something?
Yeah, Julia, I should point out that we're having an obsession here over vaccines, and you probably are too. And Tuesday's presentation probably will discuss the genesis of how the vaccines came about, because that's part of the subject matter. So it should be a very interesting presentation.
Yes, it is. Well, actually, I will talk to Professor Shomron, to Noam, ahead of time, because his presentation is more sort of a general one, and it's more focused on the epigenetics, which is a bit different. But I will ask him to dedicate like part of the presentation to vaccines, even though it definitely the situation with vaccines in Israel and the progress and all that deserves a separate presentation. And actually, I already got a request from Wesley Walker for a specific presentation regarding this topic. And I'm already looking for a speaker on that topic, and I didn't find a good speaker yet, but it's I'm working on it. Okay, so Professor Shomron will say something about it, but he is not. He is in the academy. He is doing the research. He is not involved in the actual vaccination process. Yeah, but he will say something about it.
Yeah, very good.
Sure.
Very good.
Okay. Well, there is a question. By the way, I see another question. So the Palestinian Authority doesn't have waste treatment plants. Yes, they do have waste treatment plants for sure, waste and sewage treatment plants, but they're not enough. They're simply not sufficient. And this is true for Israel. I mean, the state of Israel is happily existing for 72 years now, and we still did not take care of all our waste and all our sewage water. And so the Palestinian Authority, which exists for, let's say, well, roughly 25 years maybe, okay? So they did not succeed yet as well, and I don't think we can blame them for something. We don't do it properly, and we are much stronger, and we are much wealthier, we are much smarter, whatever you want, and still we are not 100% success. All right, Valerie, any chance of program for one of the larger museums? Valerie, are you talking about Holocaust museums or generally speaking museums?
I don't know, even like the museum in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, or any of the big museums, Yad Vashem even.
Probably
would
close.
But I thought there might be a speaker that could talk about what they're doing, if they're doing anything during COVID, and probably be too expensive to get someone like that to speak.
Well, this is problematic because you see they are not working for, the museums are closed for a year.
Right. Okay. A year. Wow.
Well, ever since the COVID, well, maybe not a year, maybe 10 and a half months. I don't really remember, but for very long period. And I don't think I can arrange a speaker who will be, it should be an authority from the museum to have a virtual tour. I don't know. I will see if I can do that, but I doubt.
Julia talked to me. One of my good friends actually works for the Diaspora Museum, and I believe she gave some sort of digital tour a few weeks ago for them. So I'm happy to connect you with her or talk to her.
Okay, sure. If she will do it for free or almost for free, that will be
that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, but sure. Send me her number and I will talk to her. And same is true for the Yad Vashem Museum and the Well, I'm just waiting for the Israel Museum in Jerusalem to reopen, because this is something I would really like us to go to together. At least to see the model and the archaeological exhibit. But
No pressure, just an idea.
Yeah, no, of course. I totally realize that this is a wonderful idea, Valerie. No doubt whatsoever. But yeah, we have to be patient.
I was thinking maybe like one of the workers could go in even though they're closed, or
The thing is that we'd have to pay them, Valerie.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
If you want to pay for it, I'm sure we could arrange.
Yeah, I know. We were trying to get him tour. We were trying to get a tour of a museum in New York for our temple, and they wanted like at least $400 for the.
Because they have no money. Museums are running on no money right now, and a lot of them are closing.
Yeah.
Our fine arts museum keeps opening and closing, and just they've had a huge Monet exhibit, which I'm sure they lost tons of money on, but it just, they were closed and then they opened and then they closed again and now they're open again, but try and get a ticket is impossible. And
Julia, what was your answer to the percentage of the?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, Alan was right. It's about 50% only, and that's it's much less than I thought. Remember, I made a mistake here, and that's because 15% are ultra Orthodox, and so they don't join the army. And then the girls who are not, they don't have to be like ultra crazy Orthodox, but the law is that if you're religious, if you're obedient, if you graduate an Orthodox high school and you are a girl, so you simply declare that you are observant, and then you are excused, and that actually adds a lot of people, because 15% or so are define themselves as ultra Orthodox, and then another 25-30% define themselves as obedient, and then half of them are obviously ladies. And so we have a lot of people who mostly women who don't join the army. And then on top of that, we have people who are excused because of physical disabilities, mental disabilities, pacifism, and other reasons like that. But the bottom line is 50%. Yeah. So I after the presentation, I called Brigadier General Shuki Ben-Anat, and
Shuki,
he was, that was very simple. His last position in the army, he was the chief commander of the reserves, K'tzin Miluim Rashi.
Yeah, right.
So even though he's not in the military now, but this data is totally available for him. So he said, that's only 50%. And that again adds to this question, this debate we have for the last, at least 30 years, about should we stop this idea of people's army, everybody must join the army, this is compulsory as we have it now, even though we have only 50%, as we know now, actually joining the army, or we should quit and we should make Israeli army just a professional army. If you want to make a career, so go ahead, join the army, get trained, get money, be happy. Okay. So we have this debate for, again, at least 30 years. I mean, I remember it ever since I accomplished my military service, and we still did not make a decision. So it's like 50-50, and this is something very, I would say, the situation with the military when, we never decided that we quit the compulsory military service, but at the same time, half of the people don't join the army. Okay? So this is a bit similar to the situation we have now with this bloody, lockdown. Because, on one hand, officially we have a lockdown, Pamela, on the other hand, I was driving today from place A to place B, which by the way is forbidden, and I was standing in a huge traffic jam for an hour because, just like myself, we have another tens of thousands of people driving, doing whatever, even though they're not supposed to do it. And that's because there's no way one can sit down locked in his house for 5 weeks, unless he is really sick or very, very law obedient, whatever. So-
Didn't they temporarily make the law that the Orthodox had to join the military, but then they reversed it?
Mhm.
So get a
Exactly.
coalition going with Bibi and all the I don't want to
Right.
get into the politics, but I thought they had
Yeah.
passed it and then they unpassed it.
Right, exactly. And the whole thing with the ultra-Orthodox being a sort of excused, okay, started from Ben-Gurion times, but in Ben-Gurion times, he defined Torato Umanuto, meaning his Torah learning is his job, and so he is, but back then, only 800 Orthodox were like the best students were excused, and now we're talking about tens of thousands. Well, this is another story. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure seeing you again, as it is always.
Seeing you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Julia. That's awesome.
hope to see you again, and we really have wonderful weeks. So please make sure you save the time and spread the word, and let others know that we have a very good week.
Well, we really appreciate all your hard work.
Great.
Thank you.
I
Fabulous.
appreciate you coming.
As usual.
Like I'm impressed by how many impressive people you know. You
Yeah.
just pick up the phone. Maybe you'll
Your
get
programs are outstanding.